We need somebody close by, and one cut out there also. Sri Rajgachadya Stotra Sapta Sri Simadhi Divine Grace Sri Bhagavad Charananda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON DVT Founder Chariots Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Prince Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Radha Srivasati Gaura Bhakti Vrinda Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Sri Dwarka Dham Ki Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Sri Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Sri Mayapur Chandradeva Mandir Ki Ganga Mai Chamanbai Ki Tulsi Bhakti Ki Hari Nama Sankirtan Ki Salvat Bhakti Vrinda Ki Transcendental Distribution Ki Jai Shri Shri Vanita Ki Jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Jai Shri Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai Thai Gaura Timanande Om Ladies Kisam Ladies Kisam Ladies Kisam all that is to see Guru to see Gauranga, all that is to see Guru. Om Agyana Tirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Dakshudandrikam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manokishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahim Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamanam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Sham Sri Rupam Sadhajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tvam Sadivam Sadvaitam Sadhudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakam Vitam Shah Hai Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kantana Chite Taptakantana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusukiriri Anamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Tiruvesya Kripa Sindhu Jayavasya Patitanam Pavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Radha Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Everyone may kindly hold your hands and repeat the following two short mantras. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Sarabhyaya Namaha.
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 Mukham karoti vachanam tvam gayate girinna yatripatamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yatripatamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Krishna Krishna.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Hare Rama.
Rama Rama.
Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Jai.
I'd like to begin by welcoming all of you who are attending the program, and in particular wishing to thank our host for arranging the program and whoever else was responsible. We are in this part of the world for the last maybe 10 days or so, and presenting a series of topics in relation to something that is possibly less discussed within our society. Yesterday, I was briefly explaining how Krishna consciousness philosophy is a very deep, profound, most ancient knowledge, actually, that all of us are fortunate to come in contact with. Some very fortunate souls, but very, very rare souls are born in that tradition, like our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. He mentions how I was fortunate to have been born in a Vaishnava family. And he also makes reference to his own Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who also had that great fortune of being born in a Vaishnava family. And actually, Srila Prabhupada was very much envisioning and desiring as well in wanting to fulfill the order of his spiritual master and wanting to fulfill the order and the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada was envisioning that in the future, many, many more souls, fortunate souls, would also be born in Vaishnava families. And of course, this could only be possible if the number of devotees increased all over the world. And this is actually by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, especially, and by Krishna's mercy, and by the mercy of all of you, actually, of all the devotees, anyone who is connected with this movement, is having that great fortune and great opportunity to help this come about, because the more we have individuals born in devotee families, in Vaishnava families, naturally from the moment that they are born, even before that, as we see an example of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, even before being born, was fortunate to hear Krishna Katha, isn't it? Because his mother was staying in the ashram of Narada Muni, and in any ashram there are daily spiritual activities, etc. This is a very important part, essential part of the Krishna consciousness movement, which is gradually being introduced all over the world. Those who are able to travel a little bit from country to country, mostly that's meant to be the job of sannyasis. Those who don't have family responsibilities. Traditionally, sannyasis travel, as Srila Prabhupada very nicely demonstrated, even at a very advanced age, as we all know, for the sake of introducing this mission of life. All of us, we have come to know, all those who are here, who are connected with these teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., have come to know that there's a mission of life, a mission in life, most important mission, which is to become self-realized. Tato Brahma Jityasa. I remember the very first lecture. We all have our little history, how we came in contact with devotees, how we first came to the temple like that. And the very first lecture, Sunday Feast lecture, which was actually in 1973, which means that close to 50 years ago, actually, the devotee giving the class quoted this, what is called the first aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra, Tato Brahma Jigyasa. And somehow I was very impressed by that. This led me to again come back for the next Sunday and gradually develop some interest and eventually attachment to take up to the process. So everyone actually in the material world is meant to discover this primary mission of life, which is to strive for self-realization, to cultivate knowledge which is given in these most important, ever inspiring literatures called the Vedas, beginning with the Bhagavad Gita. We have, Prabhupada would explain that actually the literatures that he has left us is a lifetime of learning, a lifetime of reading, especially if we take also into consideration all the other books. If we go back just to the time when the Goswamis of Vrindavan, they wrote extensively so many books. Many of these books have yet to be translated actually in English and other languages. So the Goswamis of Vrindavan, as we know, they were especially deputed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go to Vrindavan for a number of reasons. One was to uncover, rediscover the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, of Lord Krishna rather, 5,000 years ago. And another very important mission was to deeply study the Vedic literatures and extract the essence, which they have done very successfully, as we know. And we are fortunate today by the mercy of personalities like our own founder, Charya, Srila Prabhupada, and others before him. Our line of what we call Guru Parampara, from spiritual master to disciple, disciplic succession. Our particular line specializes in studying and introducing the actually the essence of the Vedic knowledge, which is the Srimad Bhagavatam, isn't it? And that is why every day we are meant to hear something from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, Srila Prabhupada especially concentrated on establishing temples, as we know. So many wonderful temples that he personally established are still present today. And he had a tremendous, it was very challenging. One individual, one lone Indian person, he tried a lot actually to get others to come with him or to follow him afterwards, but actually no one did. And he had this challenge of introducing, we could say, reintroducing the Vedic culture globally. Up until Srila Prabhupada's going to America in 1965, to a large extent, the Vedic culture was within the confines of India. Although remnants of that Vedic culture, especially now we can understand more, was also present, especially in neighboring countries of India, Asian countries, many Asian countries, and also even far away from India as well. So Vedic culture and Vedic knowledge is as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, not so easy to immediately understand. One of the reasons being that it is very deep knowledge, very confidential knowledge. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktu sime sakachiti rahasyam gitavutamam. It is that rahasyam. It is also mysterious knowledge, confidential knowledge. Krishna repeats this in many places in the Bhagavad Gita. Naturally, when sannyasis travel and have such type of opportunity to speak on the subject matter of Krishna consciousness, there's so many facets and so many aspects. So in the last 10 days, I have chosen different themes, and so this evening I put on the board or on the wall, I guess. It's on the wall. One of the themes that I have been particularly involved with for the last 20 plus years, I would say, more intensively. And it has to do with what I have, I haven't really coined it as Vedic sociology, but it helps us to possibly understand this most important dimension of the Krishna consciousness movement that probably many of us don't think about so much. We've all heard the word, naturally, Vaishnava. We have some understanding of what is Vaishnava. We've all heard the word Veda or Vedic, and we also have some understanding of that. And I would think most of us have heard the term sociology, although maybe many of us think sociology is something mundane, not so important. We're devotees, what do we have to do with sociology? But actually, it's in this presentation, I'll try to bring out a few aspects of which show, for example, how sociology, the science of sociology, first of all, sociology means what has the science of society. Sociology deals with individuals and communities and society in general. And it was developed as a science not so long ago. Who knows when the science of sociology was developed? Anyone would like to venture on this one? When was what we call modern sociology? When was modern sociology? Anyone here has read a little bit of history? Modern sociology is quite recent. It was started actually just a few hundred years ago in France by a personality called a French person, Auguste Comte. Anyone heard of his name? Not so important. Auguste Comte. He's been given the credit of having discovered, so to speak, or formulated what is sociology. I call it modern sociology because I'll bring it on the board in a few seconds here, or on the screen. I want to differentiate between modern sociology, Indian sociology, and Vedic sociology. And it's very important for all of us because it affects how we are meant to function within society. And society, is a word that is part of our name, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Of course, in that context, Srila Prabhupada is referring to society of devotees. But we know very well that the majority of society are not devotees. Majority of members within society are not devotees. And therefore, when we speak of sociology, obviously we don't restrict ourselves to only society of devotees. We are talking about, in Srila Prabhupada's mission and Lord Krishna's mission, Dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge, is to establish the principles of Dharma for everyone, isn't it? And one of the important ways by which this mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this mission of Lord Krishna, is meant to be introduced is through, I would say, a proper understanding of sociology. So let me just bring up a little bit here. Yeah. I think can I pull this over here? There's some. Okay, carefully. Okay, good. Yeah. Yes, thank you. I will be giving some references from some of our acharyas on the topic of sociology. In other words, I'm not the first one to use the word sociology in the context of Vedic life or Vedic understanding. This is part actually of just to give a little bit of background. This is part of a course, short course that I gave a few years ago through what is called VARNASHRAM College Online. Just for your information, for those who may not know, we have a ministry in India called ISKCON Daiva VARNASHRAM Ministry. And we also have devotees who are promoting or preaching the whole ideology of Varnashrama Dharma. And so in 2020, 3 years ago now, a group of devotees gave courses which are ongoing today, also online courses relating to different aspects. One of the courses was this particular course, and this is the first of 5 modules that was presented. So simple living and high thinking, actually at the heart of sociology, as we will come to see, although it's not obvious in the beginning, is this important instruction given by Srila Prabhupada. Our project is Krishna consciousness. You produce your own food, you produce your own cloth. Don't be very much anxious for artificial necessities and save time and be advanced in spiritual life. Many similar quotes and instructions are there from Srila Prabhupada. So this was in a press interview in Hyderabad. Anyone here from Hyderabad? Okay. Were you there in 1976? So Prabhupada visited, as we know, Hyderabad a number of times. And so this is one of the instructions he gave way back at that time. This is a photo from Cambodia. Who's been to Cambodia? Raise your hands. My God, I'm not traveling very much now. Cambodia is one place where in the future sometime you could have a yatra, because in Cambodia, the largest Vishnu temple is there, and the whole realm of Vedic culture can still be seen. They still have on the wall of many of the temples the whole history of Mahabharata, Ramayana, Kurukshetra, all these things, way out there in Cambodia. So this is a typical village. This is a painting, actually. I didn't take a picture. Well, I took a picture, of that painting. Right, picture. And it depicts very nicely what is meant to be the ideal lifestyle, because Vedic culture is primarily an agrarian culture. Now, this is something I think is not sufficient to just say that Vedic culture is an agrarian culture. We need to understand that actually, if we just remember Vrindavan, and of course, every day we should try to remember Vrindavan, because Vrindavan, this actually should remind us of Vrindavan. Isn't it? Forest, Vana. Vrindavan is a forest, many forests, and the main activity in Vrindavan is agriculture and cows, cow protection, isn't it? So here we see people busy with agriculture, and we see bullocks. So this is the typical, we could say, photo that conveys what it means, what is the meaning of agrarian culture or agrarian lifestyle. And this is actually very central. It's it's a recurring theme in all of our Vedic literatures throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam in particular. There are many slides that I will be skipping because we have limited time, and this particular presentation was meant to cover, to take more time than we have this evening. Some of this I've already covered a little bit. I gave a bit of background, but I'll just explain the difference, as I mentioned, between modern Vedic sociology and Vedic, and you'll be able to see how there's a major contrast, which means a major problem. And then this presentation will finish on something very important called Chatur Vidya. Chatur Vidya is also very fundamental, not only Vedic sociology, but so many different aspects actually of Vedic philosophy. Okay. So I covered this already briefly in terms of what is sociology. Sociology is the study of, we get our understanding, of course, from the Vedas, and therefore, as I will try to point out, the term sociology is there also in the Vedic literatures. And we will see a major deviation. Many of us are not, I was not aware of this actually myself, even that took me some time, even after taking up to Krishna consciousness, to understand where this major deviation in our recent history took place in the context of sociology. I'll try to explain that a little bit more as we go on here. Okay, what is sociology? Basically, I mentioned briefly what is sociology, so we don't have to go. Now, what is Western sociology? This is important to understand. Yeah. So I was mentioning about sociology as a scholarly discipline emerged primarily out of the Enlightenment thought shortly after the French Revolution. Those who have gone to university will know something, should know something about what's called the French Revolution, which took place in France a few hundred years ago. And the consequence of that, what happened basically, French Revolution means that the people who were governed at that time unfortunately, by a corrupt church, revolted, isn't it? And threw over the government, and since then, there's been a rejection of such type of authority. We know that monarchy nowadays is practically, except in some countries, like Cambodia is referred to as the Kingdom of Cambodia. There used to be not so long ago the Kingdom of Nepal, but now I don't think it's referred to as Kingdom anymore. Monarchy is actually the very scientific, it's a very deep, I would say, science, but because it's not, because it's been abused and not properly followed, therefore people in general up to this day have rejected. And as I mentioned, this particular person, Auguste Comte, he rejected religion and royalty, which is the point I was trying to make a few seconds ago, which in our context means to reject brahmanas and kshatriyas. And we know, anyone who has studied the Krishna consciousness philosophy knows that if you don't have brahmanas and if you don't have kshatriyas, society will be a mess. It will be totally chaotic, isn't it? Yeah. And that's the situation today. Yeah. So in effect, what happened from, that means like going back to 100 years ago, and Prabhupada actually confirmed this in one discussion with a devotee who was telling that, yes, this whole situation in the world today has been there for a long time. Prabhupada, no, it's not been there a long time. It's only been there since the last 200 years approximately. And this is also very important. Modern or Western sociology wants to have us believe that all knowledge comes from our direct sense perception. That whatever, we should believe only what we can see. All knowledge has to be based on reason and logic, and the exclusive source of all certain knowledge. Which, if we have anyone who has studied Krishna consciousness, will know that this is incorrect. But actually, this is the whole. Since then up to today, we have people in positions of authority, whether they be scientists or educationalists, politicians, who this is their philosophy. This is modern day philosophy, isn't it? Therefore, the whole accent is towards so-called economic development for more and more material facilities, material happiness, etc., like that, which is totally different from the Vedic understanding. Indian sociology is somewhat different. It wants to maintain some of the traditions that are there, but it tends to be rather sentimental and is just focused on Indian or India as a country. It wants to retain some of the Indian culture and tradition. So that is also incomplete and is not reflecting what the Vedic literatures teach us. So what is Vedic sociology? Well, the very first definition is right there in the Bhagavad Gita, a verse that we all know. Krishna himself actually created sociology, created the system of Varna and Ashrama. Actually, Vedic sociology means the science of VARNASHRAM, the science of Varna and Ashrama, the four natural divisions in society, both social as well as spiritual, which is very, very scientific, very natural, and is based, connected with the gunas, the three modes of material nature. And because majority of people in the world don't know about the Bhagavad Gita, so they don't know about the modes of material nature. We know something about the material nature to the extent that we have read the Bhagavad Gita, and we know that our problem in the material world is because of our contact with these modes of material nature. So I'll just go here to the this is interesting, but so this is the comparison between Western, Indian, and Vedic sociology. Vedic sociology is basically atheistic in nature, what we call empiric. Simply from our limited intelligence, we try to figure out everything. It's centered on humanism, humanistic, it is materialistic, and it is speculative, changing all the time. Indian sociology is nationalistic in nature, and is an unclear mix of philosophy and religion. They want to maintain the religious aspect. But it is, that famous saying, philosophy without religion is speculation, and religion without philosophy is fanaticism, ends up in fanaticism. Yeah. So Vaishnava Vedic sociology, the characteristics are the following: is holistic, authorized, and bringing us that proper balance between philosophy and religion. So therefore, we should accept and try to further our understanding of Vaishnava Vedic sociology. Okay, just to continue. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's blending, as we were discussing yesterday, the material Dharma with the spiritual Dharma. That's a whole. We won't give yesterday's class again this evening, but that's a whole important topic. Some slides are referring to that here. And as I mentioned before, Dharma Samsthapanarthaya, that is Krishna's mission. And what is Krishna's mission? Is our mission, isn't it? We're followers of the teachings of Lord Krishna. We're the followers of Vedic knowledge, and therefore we should be striving for the same mission. Yeah. And that mission cannot be properly fulfilled unless we understand this dimension or aspect, which is there in the Bhagavad Gita, as we quoted before. And Lord Chaitanya's mission is very similar because Lord Chaitanya, he is not different than Krishna also. And he wanted especially, this particular verse is for all of you who are sitting here, born in the land of Bharatvarsha, to form this para upakar, highest welfare activities to bring this knowledge to people. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, basically Krishna Upadesh, whatever Krishna instructions or teachings, he wanted that we Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha. Yeah, very famous instruction. So ISKCON's mission, we won't go into the detail, but Srila Prabhupada's 7 purposes are basically reiterating this same mission in different ways. And referring to society at large as well. In other words, not only a society of devotees. Now, here's something which probably, I didn't mention that yesterday, or at least I didn't dwell on it if I did mention, but it is very helpful for us to understand about this dimension of sociology by knowing that Srila Prabhupada spoke about 4 movements. I'll give the reference as well. When we have a clear understanding of these 4 movements, which were given in an essay called Gita Nagari. How many know about this essay, Gita Nagari? I asked the question yesterday, since yesterday, or maybe before also. Gita Nagari is a very important essay which is tucked away or hidden away in the what we call the folio or the database. The folio and the database, for those who may not know, is a compilation of all of Prabhupada's instructions on the CD that's available. And so you can have all of Prabhupada's books and letters, etc., like that. It's called database. So within that database actually is this essay on Gita Nagari, because it's not yet been published as a book. So here are the 4 movements in picture form. Who can identify what this is? What is the message being conveyed here? What do you think?
Sankirtan movement.
Haribol. Yeah. Very good. Okay. You hit it on the head. Sankirtan movement. That's the first of 4 movements. You must have read something. Okay. No, he's just a spontaneous. Sankirtan movement. Okay. Let's see how you're going to do with the second one. Can you guess what the second one is? Without seeing it? Probably not. Huh? No, actually Sankirtan movement, I should explain. Sankirtan movement means 2 things. And you mentioned the second one. Sankirtan movement, we all understand, as the photo is showing, means the chanting of the holy name, and also the distribution of transcendental literatures that Srila Prabhupada referred to as in Sanskrit, Brihat Mridanga. Brihat Mridanga. Yeah, the chanting can only go a short distance, but the books are actually an expansion of the chanting, isn't it? And they can go all over the world. So these are the two aspects of this first movement are holy name and books. Now we go to the second movement. Second movement. This is the picture. What is it?
Daily worship, Archan.
Okay. He's attentive. Okay. He might have seen this presentation before. So, yeah, Prabhupada called it, he called it deity worship movement. Wow. Deity worship movement. Establishing temples, isn't it? As Prabhupada did. And within the temples, because when one of the most significant things that he did, what did Prabhupada personally do when he went to the West? Very significant. He went under Thompson Square Park. He went under a tree and started chanting Hare Krishna. Thompson Square Park. Thompson Square Park, yeah. So by his chanting, naturally people heard and some people came. Who is this and what's he doing? Right? In a similar way, actually, this is how Lord Chaitanya started the mission 500 years ago. He took devotees out in the streets of Navadvip and they chanted congregational chanting, isn't it? So when people are attracted, you need a place. So that's why the second movement is there. It's a place, a temple where people can come and know the meaning or the purpose or the essence of the chanting. Yeah. Okay, third movement. Be careful now.
Preaching.
It's not a preaching movement. It's not like, no. What is Prabhupada doing? He's chanting on beads. Why is he chanting on beads? What's he going to do with his bead? This third movement is called spiritual initiation movement. When people hear about the holy name, when people come to the temple and they get trained, then they become serious. If they're fortunate, they become serious to the point of taking formal initiation, isn't it? Entering formally Krishna's family. So that's called the spiritual initiation movement. Now the fourth one. Everyone be very, very, very attentive. Because this is the hardest one.
Prasadam distribution.
Where do you see prasadam here?
Sadhu Sangha.
I had great hopes for you.
Sadhu Sangha.
Sadhu Sangha. Of course it is Sadhu Sangha, they're all sadhus. But that's not revealing the real intent of this picture. This picture, where is this picture taken? Who can say? That's not an easy question also. It's not in Mayapur actually. Not in Vrindavan also.
Navadvip.
No. You This picture was taken, only very few may know this name. It's called New Naimisharanya. Where is New Naimisharanya? New Naimisharanya, Prabhupada gave that name for the Hyderabad farm. Who's from Hyderabad again? Only one, okay. So Prabhupada visited Hyderabad farm, New Naimisharanya, and under a tree, that I believe that tree is still there, was discussing about the fourth movement. The fourth movement, Srila Prabhupada called it classless society movement. I'll bring it up here so that you can also see. These are the four movements. Sankirtan movement, temple worship movement, spiritual initiation movement, classless society movement. These are the exact words given by Prabhupada in his essay of 1956. And that is further supported by a letter written by Srila Prabhupada to Dr. Patel, former the Prime Minister of India, in a letter 1949. 1949. So classless society actually refers, correct, to Varnashrama. How to understand classless society? Who can explain? It's not so, you want to try? Speculate as the movie. So classless society, Srila Prabhupada means that within the system of Varna and Ashrama, although one may be taken up the role of a Brahmana or of a Kshatriya, a Vaishya or Shudra, everyone is a devotee. Everyone is a practicing devotee. Everyone is endeavoring to perform bhakti, devotional service. So therefore, everyone is having the same goal and objective, and therefore, there is no bodily clash of ideology or material ideological differences. That is the meaning that Prabhupada is conveying by using the term classless society. So, okay, I mentioned that this is, very important to know these four divisions or four movements, because within the last 50 years of our development as a society, as an international society for Krishna consciousness, primarily, we have focused on the first three, isn't it? In all of our temples, we maybe not as much as in the early days, but we perform Harinam at least in the temple. And sometimes some temples, depending on different factors, they go out on the streets and perform Sankirtan, congregational chanting. All the temples have altar, and most of the temples have these Gaurika deities like that. So there is ongoing temple worship. Spiritual initiation, that is also there. Spiritual initiation has to do with congregational preaching. We have a ministry for congregational preaching, where individuals are receiving different types of training, whether it's Bhakti Shastri. We have different groups. We have youth activities like that. And the one which has less been introduced, and that Prabhupada referred to, I mentioned that yesterday. Srila Prabhupada mentioned that 50% of his mission was yet to be fulfilled. The 50% of his mission was to establish Varnashrama Dharma. Yeah. So there are devotees within our society who are especially focused on promoting this particular aspect. Okay. This is a graphic. Let's see, it's not coming properly. Yeah. Anyways, it begins in the center with Sankirtan, in the center, and then everything expands from there. And it's meant to be compared with this one. Within ISKCON today, we have books in Harinam, deity worship, congregation, and Varnashram. Yeah. Okay. They're meant to come up simultaneously, but some defect is there. And this is the reference for those I mentioned, yeah, the letter of 1949. So it's like this. Prabhupada mentions in the BTG way back in 1956, spiritual existence of devotional activities and classless society are two identical terms. The one without the other has no meaning. Very important statement, which explains how these two need to coexist so that there's a proper balance. Because we are simultaneously having to deal with two natures. We have a spiritual nature, our original nature is spiritual, we are the jiva, but we are in the material world, we have material body. So we have to address both realities. Yeah. So this is what we discussed basically yesterday. Two swadharmas, very, very important to understand that we have these two aspects of dharma that we need to recognize and I would say integrate in our daily lives. Yeah. I briefly mentioned about the IDVM, which is ISKCON VARNASHRAM ministry, which is primarily aimed at, this is the mandate actually of the ministry, promoting this dimension or this aspect of Srila Prabhupada's mission. And this is the rest of the mandate here being displayed. So it means actually focusing on reestablishing, reviving our original Vedic culture, which is primarily in the villages. Yeah. Now here are important statements by our different acharyas, beginning with Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our Srila Prabhupada. In the Sajjana Toshani, one of the important writings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he writes, those who have sufficiently studied sociology certainly conclude that the system of Varnashrama is the topmost social system. Because it's created by Krishna. So whatever Krishna creates actually is topmost, right? Secondly, if one is situated in the principle of Varnashrama, then his nature cannot be lost. Rather, one can receive huge opportunity and advantage to cultivate Krishna consciousness. Another very important statement. There are many similar statements. I'm just choosing a few of them here. This one also important. Varnashrama Dharma is a society of the Vaishnavas in their conditional state. Because we don't become overnight completely free from these modes of material nature. We don't become Paramahamsas overnight. It's rather rare. I mean, it doesn't happen. As we have even a tinge of connection with the modes of material nature, we should work within Krishna's system of Varnashrama. This is a bit more esoteric from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to understand. And Srila Prabhupada, he mentions there's no need to eradicate politics, economics, and sociology, which are, but to a pure devotee who is actually related with the Lord, such mundane things are transcendental if dovetail with the Lord or with his pure devotees, isn't it? Things are mundane or material when they are disconnected with Krishna. But this microphone, as Prabhupada would explain, It's a spiritual microphone because it's vibrating transcendental sound coming from Shastra. It is utilized in Krishna service. And another important statement, sociology is already given by Krishna. Bhagavad Gita 4:13. This is perfect sociology. This is from Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Actually, this is from the dialectic spiritualisms, when they were discussing about Mr. Auguste Comte. Okay. There should be a thorough, therefore, important statement by Srila Prabhupada, there should be a thorough overhauling of the social system, and society should revert to the Vedic principles, that is, the 4 Varnas and the 4 Ashramas. Srila Prabhupada further adds that until and unless this happens, society will remain in chaos. Because people don't know what to do. People don't know who they are, isn't it? And therefore there's constant clash and confusion. Unless the human society, unless in the human society the Varnashrama system is introduced, no scheme or social order, health order, or any order, political order, will be successful. I mean, it's quite clear, should be quite clear. So, yeah, I want to finish actually by presenting this. This is just like a short introduction to what is called Chatur Vidya. We would need to spend a whole session on that in itself. Actually, one of the topics, hopefully we can include it, is on Varnashrama College. In Varnashrama College, these are the topics that are that make up the curriculum, actually, for Varnashrama College, and Prabhupada wanted that we introduce. So the first of these 4 sciences is called Anvikshiki. Anvikshiki means the science of philosophy. And anyone who goes to either Gurukula or Varnashrama College, the beginning of one's education will be to know the science of philosophy. Science of philosophy, Vedic philosophy, is divided into Sankhya, Yoga, and what is it? Debate, Tarka. Yeah. Sankhya, Yoga, and Tarka are the 3 natural divisions within Anvikshiki. And these 4 sciences are for the Dvijas, what we call the twice born. Who are the twice born in the Vedic culture? Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. Correct, yeah. So the second science is called Trayi. Trayi means knowledge of the Vedas. So Vedic education, which is primarily the domain of Brahmanas. Brahmanas are meant to deeply study and then teach the science of Vedic knowledge. The different sciences, the different fields of knowledge within the Vedic literatures. The third science is called Dandaniti, the science of politics. Politics is for Kshatriyas. Yes. There needs to be qualified leaders within society who are well versed in these 2 sciences, the science of monarchy and also the science of Dharma, because Vedic kings are referred to as Raja Rishi, Raja Rajarshi, Ivam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajarshriyu Vidu, Rajarshi. Modern day leaders today are largely not Rajas nor Rishis. Isn't it? Actually, they have not received definitely not receive the Vedic training that is meant to be given, neither the material training nor the spiritual training. The fourth science is called Varta, the science of economics. These four standard Vedic sciences make up the curriculum for Vedic traditional education. VCO, I mentioned a little earlier, VARNASHRAM College Online has established its faculties based on these four fields of knowledge. And we are also now, in addition to what we call VCO, this I will not discuss this evening. It will be a topic in the next 1 or 2 days. What is called VCF. VCF means Varnashram College Foundation, where we are endeavoring to establish an actual Varnashram College in Sridhar Mayapur, where these courses will be taught, where individuals can come to be resident students of that college and learn the original Vedic teachings as they are given in the Shastra. So this was, I presented this when we were, as I mentioned earlier, giving these courses online. And this is the, if anyone is interested to take these courses or to know more about these courses, this is our website for the Varnashram College Online. We also have, I'll mention that later means tomorrow or the next day, another website for the VC Foundation. For those who may be interested to be, if anyone is thinking, well, eventually everyone will have to go back to India. If anyone especially is thinking of retiring, would like to be connected with this college in a teaching capacity, for example, or as a student, we encourage you to open dialogue with us, and we can provide you with more information. So as we normally do, this is actually the end of the presentation. What I can do, I don't know if time allows or not, I generally show a short video about one of our communities. Normally, what time? We have time for a 5-minute video, short video. 5, 6, 7 at the most. Let's see what we have here. And then after showing the video, if there's any comments or questions, we can take a few minutes. Right? Okay, let me see here. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. We'll choose a community in Germany. Let's see. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Okay. We'll just bring this to full screen. Enter full screen. Yeah. The sound, we may have to adjust the sound. Actually, does anyone have the what normally is there? Otherwise, we have to use this mic. Right. Actually, I should carry one of these things that, but for now, we'll have to compromise. Yeah, I'll do it. It's okay. Leave it down. No, down. This is called Simachalam. They have a Udra Narashinha deity with the Darshan. Train. Glorification. So we spoke a little bit about, our topic was on Vedic sociology and presenting some of the basic concepts and principles behind it. The video shows a little bit the practical application of that philosophy, what it can look like. We have a number of communities around the world, by Prabhupada's mercy, where devotees are endeavoring in different ways to, this can be employed. Yeah. So we can take a few minutes if there's anyone having comment, a question. Do we have another mic by chance? If not, it's okay. Not such a big group, but if there's a mic, it might help. No questions. Mataji? Yes, one question. Yes. Yes.
So blessed. Thank you for that. My question is, Maharaj, in this VARNASHRAM, as we see, it requires lots of physical labor. Right? In current day situation, where we saw this Western sociology, our ideology could be different, but then that kind of society, that would be difficult for this adjust if we have to adapt to this particular physically health-wise or otherwise also. So, I mean, how do we address that?
Okay, I'll just repeat the question. So the question is, in our present context of modern day, highly developed, advanced society, where we have become accustomed to using so many machines and living a particular lifestyle, how how would we go about adjusting to this, what is being promoted in terms of a lifestyle which seemingly requires a lot of physical effort, which might be difficult in many ways. Most of us, the vast majority, not being trained, not having knowledge about so many things in connection. That's a valid question, naturally. We, for the most part, are not prepared to immediately make that kind of transition. I was making the point yesterday that even though we don't see ourselves as maybe taking up this kind of lifestyle, we should know that this is the Vedic standard in terms of how up until, I would say, 200 years ago approximately, this was the general lifestyle, which was from all points of view, actually, especially as the economic point of view, a much more sustainable lifestyle than we are living today. The Vedic literatures and our acharyas, in particular our founder acharya, has spoken about, and not only spoken about, but has actually strongly recommended that we reintroduce this lifestyle. Now, naturally, this cannot be done overnight. And in order to facilitate us even understanding about this lifestyle, and in order to help us also understand why we should take it up, Srila Prabhupada, 50 years back, instructed that we should establish the VARNASHRAM colleges to educate and train our devotees in how we should be doing this and why we should be doing it. We need to understand how we are living in a very artificial system, which modern way of living is not natural, very artificial, and is also not based on sustainable principles. And it is important for us as devotees to understand, because it has been directly mentioned by our founder Acharya as well, that this, what we are experiencing, what we are living, what we are seeing today will not last for a long time. As a matter of fact, Prabhupada mentioned that modern day civilization, because it's not based on Vedic principles, because it's based on exploitation, exploitation of the natural resources of nature, exploitation of one another, is based on unnecessary competition, ever increasing, consumer-oriented society. Prabhupada used the word modern day civilization is a doomed civilization. Doomed. It is doomed to perish. It, by definition, by nature, it cannot sustain because it's not following sustainable principles. And we see how increasingly over the years, the situation in society is becoming more and more degraded, more and more complicated, more and more difficult. I mean, there's all kinds of statistics that are there, which attest to the fact that the way we are living, the way we have been living, the way the whole modern society has been established is wrong. You see, we have already used up over 33% of the natural resources on the planet in the last 30 years. We are on a daily basis, because of our way of living, because of our modern ideology of just trying to center on our personal well-being, there is a phenomenon taking place which has been ongoing for quite a few decades, where on a daily basis, it is estimated that 100 different species are being extinct on a daily basis. We are dependent actually on so many different species, but we are destroying them at a rate never seen in history. We have, since the so-called Green Revolution, which started some 50 plus years ago, where we thought that by introducing machinery, by introducing chemical fertilizers, that we would produce more food. The end result, as we are seeing today, is that we have basically destroyed our topsoil all over the world. We have a situation today where the food that we eat every day is actually not wholesome food. It is contaminated because of the soil being contaminated. Secondly, the quality of that food, the nutrients within that food have reduced up to 60 or 80%. We say, there's a saying in the West that an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Now you have to eat 10 apples to get the nutrients that used to be there in one apple. All the food has become like this. We could go on describing how the modern way of living and how we are going about ever increasing our so-called, under the banner of economic development. We are that's why Prabhupada mentions how modern day civilization is a killing civilization. There is a website that is dedicated to keeping track of how many, every second of the day, how many different animals, and whether they're animals and reptiles and aquatics, are being killed every day. Most of us are much less aware of what is actually taking place, but we are on the path of scientists have estimated, they have found out how there have been already 5 what is called complete destruction on the planet. Extinction is called human extinction or extinction of species, and we are heading in that direction right now. So in other words, what is given in our Shastra and what is reiterated and explained by our acharyas, we need to hear and try to understand very clearly and very deeply. And if we are able to do that, we will then be able to act on it as well. Srila Prabhupada very clearly and very often as well described how I mentioned in the very beginning of the talk that 50% of his mission remained unfulfilled. And Srila Prabhupada understood that, probably the majority of people on the planet will continue in that suicidal course. But he wanted that the devotees not depend on the system that is soon to collapse, or that is destined to collapse. The word soon, we don't know when, but it cannot continue this way. So naturally, it doesn't mean that every devotee has to just like from today and tomorrow make this kind of shift, but we should know that we are living, the situation in the world is very precarious. We're living in a very dangerous way by allowing, by contributing also to vast destruction that is taking place on the planet. So it needs, in other words, it's an area that needs to be gradually introduced, gradually understood, and individuals naturally need to be trained to live this particular lifestyle. And in as much as it may seem totally, because we've gone so far away from what is meant to be the norm that we think this is totally impractical. But actually, it's the most practical because that's the only way we can, again, be sure that we will get proper food, for example, to live, and that we will not, that we will be able to actually properly focus on what is the primary goal and purpose of life. So these Prabhupada started these farm communities, which are meant to be a step towards re-establishing this Vedic, I mentioned earlier, agrarian lifestyle. This has been the norm up until, it's always been the norm. And it's only, as I mentioned, since the last 200 years that we have gone on this tangent. It's Prabhupada would call it misdirected society. And we have, as devotees, because we have been given this knowledge, somehow we are fortunate to receive this knowledge. We need to understand its practical application, not just, spiritual life or Dharma is not simply sitting somewhere and chanting Hare Krishna. What is the meaning of chanting Hare Krishna? Chanting Hare Krishna, as Prabhupada explains, means, my dear Lord, please engage me in your service. We need to understand what is that service, isn't it? We should not only be, let's say, focused on our own individual, let's say, salvation. We are meant to actually introduce this knowledge and this lifestyle actually to the whole of humanity. Of course, unless we ourselves begin to understand it and to live it, we cannot even start thinking about how others will be following. So I know it's for many of our devotees, these discussions on VARNASHRAM and village life may seem very remote, something even impractical, considering our present way of living. But we should know that this is what Shastra is teaching us, and especially it is repeated and further explained by all of our acharyas, including our founder Acharya. So therefore, just like what the Prabhupada explains, that to properly understand the Bhagavad Gita, we can't just choose, instructions that we think that we like. All of the instructions given in the Bhagavad Gita are important. Therefore, all of the instructions given by Srila Prabhupada, by all of our acharyas, are also important. We need to understand that without applying these teachings, we continue to contribute unknowingly very often in the misdirected society that is becoming more and more destructive. So of course, one of the questions is, okay, what can we do? How can we even begin the process? And I would say that we need to know how our becoming disconnected with the real purpose of life is intimately connected with our being disconnected with the proper lifestyle, with being disconnected with Mother Nature, with being disconnected with Mother Cow. In the Vedic culture teaches that we can more easily, more quickly, more naturally become connected with Krishna if we are also connected with his nature. And if we understand the laws of nature, the laws created by Krishna, the system, in terms of social system created by Krishna, the more we are in harmony with that, then the more we can actually be successful in attaining the goal of life. So naturally, it's something gradual, I would say, but we need to know and understand what is the norm, and take the necessary steps actually to come closer to that. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for such a helpful, informative talk. My question is that in VARNASHRAM, so there are 4 Varnas, so Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya,
Yes.
Shudra. So how do we decide who's a Brahmana? How do we decide who's a Kshatriya?
Normally, that is done at an earlier age. When one is younger, this is nicely described actually by Srila Bhakti Thakur, that traditionally, very interesting how he explains this in one of his books, I believe Sajjana Toshani, how by the age of 15, before the age of 15, one's varna is meant to be decided by the local brahmanas in the village. And there are 4 basic principles that will help those local brahmanas to determine the varna. The varna is the varna of young boys, because varna is not a consideration for the girls. That's a whole topic that we could get into later on. I'll just mention the 4 ways by which one determines the varna. One is by astrological calculation, by astrology, which is still, which is one of the bona fide sciences that is there, the science of astrology. Another is by studying or knowing about what is called the family lineage. What was the occupation of your father? What was the occupation of your grandfather? And going back as far as possible. That is a second consideration. The third is by observing the nature of an individual, we can understand if he's in the mode of more in the mode of goodness or more in the mode of passion. Establishing if one is a Brahmana or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya means understanding which mode is mostly correct, predominant, yeah. And the fourth is by what is called giving or psychological tests, by administering either verbal or written psychological tests. One can understand the mentality or the qualities of an individual. So there are, in other words, there are specific scientific ways which help determine the varna. And in the present context in which we are living, it is very difficult. The nature of individuals become more easily manifest when one is living in a more natural environment, which is a rural environment, you see. And therefore, because the majority of us, and it's an ongoing phenomena taking place in the world today, more and more people are leaving villages, adopting, city life, etc. So that was that is the way by which one can determine an individual's karma. Yeah.
Maharaj, just one more clarification on the same question.
Yeah.
What you explained, Maharaj, is it as per Shastras, or is it this is as per the Guru Parampara? Like you mentioned, Bhakti Thakur, you mentioned.
Guru Parampara is what our acharyas base their teachings on. In other words, our process is to consider all of these three aspects. What acharyas will say is supported by Shastra. So it's not only what Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling. That is there in Shastra. Yeah. Yeah. Any other? Yeah, okay.